to thank you for, for inviting me, for opening this space, and for making this community so open in a way that we who join you, who participate at the 2HLL group, can really truly participate and share and build the community together and support each other and share our stories. And that is real encouragement and growth right there. So I'm very happy to be talking to you today. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. We're so glad to have you. And I'm so glad that you think that. I think that the 2HLL community is its biggest selling point, to be honest. There's about over 500 of us now, and it's such a supportive group of lawyers. So
And growing. I always recommend it to anyone, who is looking into transitioning because it has worked wonderfully with me. And honestly, I don't know what I would have done if I did not have the guidance, the materials along the way to start this journey because I am, it is a new journey for me. The estate planning practice as a solo attorney, uh, and you can't really do that alone. So I am, very involved with the attorneys from the Brazilian community, other Brazilian attorneys who practice here, and 98% of them practice in immigration, and that's why I went the other route, practicing something else. But sometimes it gets heavy. Sometimes they get burned out, just like in litigation people who work in civil litigation get burned out and want to transition. And the same happens with my colleagues who work on immigration. And sometimes they ask me, how is it for you to work in a different area? And how did you get there? And I'm like, well, it is wonderful. It's a transition that I would not switch. I would not change it for anything else, for any other area. Actually, I always dreamed on practicing on this area. And finally, the opportunity has presented, but I could not do that without support, without community, without materials, without information, without people that I can reach out to. And I tell them, if you ever really look into transitioning, you're going to be super welcome in the community and in the group. And, strength in numbers, the more the merrier. So I'm always happy to try to encourage my colleagues to come with me and do this journey. Because right now, one of the challenges that I face with my practice is it's not as much as a challenge, but it's something fun that happens. I have two goals with my practice. One is obviously to practice law in a way that I can, earn some income and, you know,
support your
develop my
family.
office. Yes, get paid for my job essentially. But the other goal is to educate the community that I target. My office is open to all. I have, in fact, two-thirds of my clients right now are Americans. But I do offer this add-on, which is to speak in Portuguese, to be able to offer consultations in Portuguese. And we have a huge Brazilian community here that I hope we still maintain it huge because it feels very welcoming to have my friends from my country living here around. But as Brazilians, we don't have this habit of doing any type of state planning. This is not a thing that we do in Brazil. This is a thing that it's regulated by the civil law there. And only when you come from a very wealthy family, you think of doing a will, and sometimes people don't even do it.
Yeah.
And while here, it's a culture and it's open to all, and everyone is more open about talking about it and researching and consulting an attorney about it. But because this is not common for my community, I want to introduce that to them. I want them to also have this type of protections that we get with the estate planning. So the other focus of my practice is doing this education part to the community. And then that's where, the 2HLL really plays a big role in my practice, because you help us to do the seminars, to do the webinars, to put ourselves out there in the social media, and how to share the information. And all of this is very useful, and it's essential, in fact, to this goal of educating the community, because when I opened Trust Brazil, which is my office, I always thought, well, Brazilians need to be on on a spot there. It needs to always be one of the priorities. So much that it's very challenging to me because I need to do everything in a bilingual basis. So I have one website which is in Portuguese, and then I have a version of it in English, and my consultations, my seminars, my presentations, everything comes in Portuguese, and then there is English also attached to it in a way, So it's double work. But if it's worth it, if I see one Brazilian, two Brazilian families a month doing a plan, or at least doing some research about it, I know that my goal is already, on the way to being accomplished, of having people learn and get these protections. And it's a relief to know that, for example, we're in California, right? I'm in California, and it's fire season. And people get here from another country and they work a lot and they finally get to buy a house.
Yeah.
And imagine that house is not protected, is not in a trust, and there is a fire and that house burns. Oh my gosh, that's, unthinkable loss, and their insurance will not want to cover. But if I get to tell people, hey, did you know that you can not only have this housing trust in a way that it will be passed more easily if we do the language the right way, but also we can add that to your insurance policy, and they're going to have no grounds to decline your coverage if something happens to that property that you worked so hard to get. That's amazing. So that's why I love what I do. I love
We're doing
design.
important work. We're doing important work.
Yeah, it's important. It's important, and it's something that I worked in litigation before, and it feels very different because there people were always unhappy. There people were always trying to get something from each other. There were always battles. There was always so much money involved in a way that money was just being spent. And here, no, here with this practice that we do, it's for the peace of mind. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's much less well, there isn't really any arguing. Yeah, it's a very different mindset. So that's interesting that you mentioned that because we do have a lot of people who take the course, a lot of lawyers who are what we call recovering litigators, who are just, coming from a space in their work life that is just really, really hard for them to, to manage on a sustainable basis.
yeah.
So you like estate planning more, is that right? What is it that you like more about estate planning as opposed to the litigation?
Oh my, well, everything basically. I get to the balance. The balance was one of my focuses when I transitioned because I have a young family. I have a young child, a toddler, in fact, and, many pets, a lot to take care of. But I also want to work, and doing this type of work and being my own boss, I can do it in my terms in a way that I can accommodate fully my family schedule, you know, and I have my remote office. So I work right here from home where I can still overview what's going on outside that door,
So you're
and
100% remote.
100% remote right now. Sometimes I think about, getting an office space. May happen in the future, just because some clients really do prefer to meet in person. Sometimes I can just rent an office space for a day or so. So I'm still considering if I will ever do that or not. But just working remotely is very convenient, and we have all the support for doing that with our type of practice, the estate planning practice, because we have all the softwares available. We have the video conferences. We can always use the old good telephone for calls. And when a client really wants that in-person touch, I just travel, I just go do the visit.
Yeah.
And, there isn't much a big arrangement to that. And then we have the remote, the notaries who come, the traveling notaries who I can just hire for a day and come with me. So it's all very convenient. And then I can just go on my calendar and set up my office hours in a way that I can conciliate that with my family schedule. And for me, that's the most important right now. Raising a bilingual child is also extra work, is also double the work. So I feel that I need to be very, very present for that to work. And in my family, we have that need because we need this child to be able to communicate with the rest of, our family, which is only in Portuguese. So when I decided to open my own office, that was the thinking, to be able to do all that for my family, to be able to serve my Brazilian community, but also to feel like I'm practicing law with my degree that I got here, my master's here, my bar credentials from here, my corporation, is registered with the California bar. So, to make all that worth, I also want to be able to practice with, to open it to everyone, to the American, to other nationals of other communities, other foreign communities, and work together and then eventually grow this practice. Right now, my goal is not to have a huge name, a huge practice with huge numbers. Right now, I offer what I tell my clients is it is concierge service. It's
Yeah.
1 to 2 clients at a time only. And then they will have open line with me. That's what we do. That's what they do. They have an open line with me within my calendar. But I'm always there because when I'm with their case, when I'm with their plan, I'm basically 100% there for them, one at a time, full service. And they always come back because if it's either for their own family that they need something else or they refer me to someone else from their circle. So it
So Are
works.
you, are you finding that you're not running a lot of ads or things like that because the people that you do work with, you're doing such a good job that they're now starting to refer people to you?
Yeah, I don't even have time yet, Laura. I have all those materials that you make available for us, and they are wonderful. But I don't get to use them. And I have, my Instagram page, my website. I have a lot of channels to post those ads. I just don't even have the time or the need to do them because right
You don't
now,
need to because you're getting referrals.
yeah. So I get more than enough right now. So eventually, when my child starts going to school, and then I have more hours a week to work, then I'm sure I'm going to use them just also to see how they play really, how what's the effect, Sometimes I get afraid of getting more than I will be able to handle, but then I can always hire someone to work with me. That's not the time right now though for these big numbers. That's not the goal right now. The goal is to get great on, what I can already do. The interesting thing is that it's always the challenging cases that present to me. I when I started doing these not even 1 year ago, because I opened my office in September 2024. My plan was okay, my target's going to be the young families, to moms, to dads, or mom and dad and their kids or their one child or their pet. And this little family is going to be, my client, and I'm going to do their little trust. And that's going to be it. And that's very basic. That was always my goal. And, oh, and if I can get that little family from the Brazilian community, beautiful. That's what I'm going to do. Well, of course, plans, they always change along the way, and that's not what's happening. What's happening is I have people who reach out to me with, you know, taxable estates, with special needs, trust
Oh,
administration
yeah.
stuff. And then, of course,
So what do you
sometimes
do
it
when that
comes,
happens? What do you do when that happens?
well, I call counsel, I look for people to work with, but I also sometimes it's people who are very close and they really want to work with me because of the trust, because of they want to keep it in their circles. And I say, well, I can always refer you to someone very experienced. No, we want to work with you.
Yeah,
So
but you
then
co-counsel, then you
then
co-counsel. Yeah.
co-counsel and tons of research and hours and hours looking at resources. But that's not a waste of time for me because I'm learning how to do these things. And maybe I'm not meant to be a basic planner as I wanted to in the beginning. Maybe I'm meant to be a complex, case type of planner. And it's okay because that's what I enjoy. Like I really enjoy looking for alternatives and solutions. And I started working when I was 14 years old. Uh,
You
and
too. So
yeah,
what were you doing at
well,
14?
it
I
was
was
an
delivering.
apprenticeship. It was an apprenticeship. So it was not like a full-time work, but I started my apprenticeship in the biggest bank of Brazil, in the Brazilian biggest bank. I'm from the capital of Brazil, in Brasilia. And in Brasilia, it's like DC. We have all the power, we have all the administration, and we have the biggest banks, the Supreme Court, everything is there. So I had access to all these places to, find jobs, and that's how I built my background. So my first job when I was 14, apprenticeship at the Brazilian bank, Bank of Brazil.
Which is a
And
pretty good job. It's a pretty good gig,
yes,
imagine for a 14-year-old.
yeah, well, I was not really doing much work, but I was observing a lot and I was learning. And the section where I worked there was the section of it was the uh organization and the strategy and organization section of this big bank. So they were the minds who did all the strategy of this big bank. And I was there just basically observing these people when I was not, clipping papers or printing papers for them. I was just there sitting there and watching. But that really influenced my mindset for my whole life now, because everything that I do is thinking of the strategy and how I'm going to organize that to make that happen. And it has always been like that. And, so I never forgot that foundation. So everything is about foundation for me. It's like what
Yeah.
comes from the foundation and how can I
Yeah.
apply that later.
It's amazing how much you can learn just from observing. I mean, I worked before law school. I'm like you. I started working when I was, I don't know, I was like 10 or 11. I had a paper route. So it's in my book. I started with a paper route and I haven't stopped since then. But
Nice.
before I went to law school for many years, I worked on Wall Street. And I literally sat next to hedge funds billionaires, that I was working with and for on the trading floor. And I mentioned that like not to brag or anything like that, but just to point out when you're in that environment, boy, do you learn a lot. Like I was sitting on the trading floor for 12 hours a day, even if I wasn't the one doing the transactions or, whatnot,
Mhm.
like I was observing what everybody else was doing. And
Yeah.
you take lessons with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That sticks. That's very valuable. That's amazing. Yeah, and that plays, later, years later, you're still using that, and that's amazing. That's how it goes for me. So
So
yeah, so maybe later, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to go back to just the basic, but it's good to know a bit of the complex, because then the basic becomes just the fun part of it, just the relaxing part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell lawyers, if you enjoy doing the more complicated planning, the taxable estates, that kind of a thing, then by all means, learn about it, add it in. If you don't enjoy doing it, then, stick with the basics. There's always going to be
Yeah.
plenty of people who just need the
I
basics.
have the benefit here of being in a family of lawyers. Not my parents, not my extended family, but my husband and I, we are both lawyers. And I have my own practice. He has his own practice. We have very different styles. We do very different work. He is a mergers and acquisition lawyer. And
With
that's
with
where
his own
all
firm,
this
or does he have his own firm, or is he with someone
he
else?
has his own firm. He's a partner in another firm here in California. And that's where these referrals for, complicated cases come from mostly. That's why I don't need to go very far to get them, because they just appear to me from someone else who was his client, and he did a successful acquisition, some good corporate work, and after that that person needs the protection to their newly acquired to their newly acquired company, to their state, to their
Hmm.
even to their family,
Yes.
to all those LLCs that they now have, so
The ball starts to roll. It's really hard in the beginning, like, getting that first client, getting the first two, three, four. It's such a heavy lift. But then
yeah.
what happens is you start to serve a few people and you do it well, and then they start to tell their friends, and it just becomes like this exponential ripple effect.
Yeah,
So that's what I try to
but
tell people when they're starting.
you need to show that you're doing a good work, because I would not get any of these referrals if I didn't prove that the work that I'm doing is complete, is efficient, is, you know, highly skilled with, and that's why when I started my practice, I signed up. I did not have any income yet at all. I started with zero. But even so, I started with my own personal credit card, and I got all the software, all the best software, you know, signed up for, all the, what's the best software out there in the market. So I'm not gonna name any names here, but I did a lot of research before launching this practice, and I watched you and I watched the community and I read all the posts, and okay, this is good stuff, this is great stuff, this is the best stuff. So I'll get the best of the best. And having it is just essential, because you have not only the software, but you have the CLAs, you have all the training videos, all the seminars that you can watch and go from there. So making this combo of using the best of the best makes me confident enough to show the clients, to show the prospect that, look, I only use the best. Everything that I use is updated. And if I don't know something, I'll always find the response within my colleagues.
Yeah.
And I do have my contacts here, my local contacts, the local bar associations that I go to events and I connect with all these people, all these other great lawyers from this area, all the CPAs, all the fiduciaries. It's a I had someone coming to assist me one day, and then I showed her my binder of cards that I get, business cards that I get from from these events, and I was like, here, this is a source of gold, because I will reach out to these people. I will use these cards. I always send a follow-up email to say, hey, it was great to meet you, and let's connect,
Yeah.
and let's have lunch, and that's how it's happening. So I can't just
Yeah,
say,
showing
oh, I
that.
have referrals coming and it's easy. No, I need to prove myself that, I have the resources to make it work.
Yeah, that's a really valuable thing to add, to show your community and your clients that you're connected and that you're building relationships with others in the community. If you need a CPA, I can give you two or three names that I like, And the more
Yeah.
you can start showing that you're connected, you're part of the community, you're looking out for them in more ways than one, that's going
Yeah.
to bring in more business as well. These are like the things they don't teach you, but like once you know that, you're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. I want to look connected to the people that are looking up to me.
Well, and especially when it comes to the planning for foreign, nationals, for Brazilians who live here, you always have to have some fiduciaries aligned, because sometimes the person is not a citizen yet, and then you need to use some specific language, and you need to tell them, hey, when the time comes, if you're not a citizen yet, and if you don't have another citizen to appoint, we may need to use one of these fiduciaries here, to be co-trustees or to be the trustee for you, just to secure your situation and to not cause any harmful tax implications. So it's very important to have those in this context of planning for international citizens.
So, Drielle, you're in California, right? Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit in our last couple of minutes left. This has been so fun talking to you. I've loved hearing more about what you're building. You're such a shiny star in our 2HLL community. Tell us, for anyone listening who lives in California, what kind of people you serve, families, business owners. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so at this point, I do only estate planning and trust. I just incorporated trust administration. I serve families. I serve, my target would initially be families, but I don't serve only families, it's individuals, it's kids who are going to college, it's people who need that last will and testament. Sometimes they are in their hospital bed already, and that has happened to me, that difficult type of situation. And I have a lot of experience working with the elderly, because that was my those were my clients in Brazil when I had my practice there. So it's open, it's pretty open. If I talk to a client who needs some type of planning or some type of administration, and we connect in our first call, I will serve them. There is no discrimination. I only do this. I only serve these people. No, it's I'm open to all. I'm open to Americans, to Brazilians, to families, to individuals. Um, I'm not doing much in terms of business planning yet, but I do have a tax attorney who I work with.
Mhm.
So I have a business law practice that I work with. And within that business law practice, we do have a tax attorney. So I have resources. So
You
I'm open.
do.
And what I like is to talk to people. I always offer that first call, that first free call, first 30 minutes are always free because I like to talk to people. And even if I'm not the right person to serve them at that time, in that situation, I will have someone to send them to. They're always taken care of with me. So anyone here in California, in the Bay Area, specifically, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I have connections, throughout the state. So
Wonderful. Drielle Bennett, that is the name. We will drop it into the chat and we'll drop your link and everything into the chat. So for those of you listening, if you live in California, right, this is a state by state thing. So as lawyers, we can only work with people in the state that we're licensed. So Drielle is licensed in California. And you need help with estate planning or any of the other things that she mentioned, check out her link. We'll put it down below. Anything else you want to share with us, Drielle?
no, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, and I can't wait to hear my colleagues talking to you.
Thank you for joining. You're doing great things. We love women business owners. We love women that are helping their community. Yeah, so I'm really, really proud of you and just glad to have us. And thanks for joining our Lifestyle Lawyer Revolution podcast.